Hi everyone, it's Rachel and Anthony.
Hello.
From Don't Crop Me Now, and today we're going to do an update right from my new latest freebie for the allotment, which is this sofa. So it's been quite a while since we've done an update. We haven't done the monthly tours throughout this season, and that's probably because we've just been so busy running the allotment association. I have to say that our own plots have been a little bit neglected. So by neglected, I don't mean they're full of weeds. Don't take me wrong, they're still quite tidy plots, but we've certainly not managed to utilise our crops to the best we normally do really throughout this entire season. But there are a lot of crops that need picking, so let's have a look around. So let's start on plot 4 and at this end of the plot. Now some things have done pretty well for us, and I have to say this pergola looked really nice with the flowers on up until the really dry weather that we had, and it was very difficult to keep up with the watering. But myself and my mum did replant this area with some pretty flowers for autumn, so this is still looking quite nice. And with my new freebie sofa that I got off Facebook Marketplace, we've got a really nice seating area down here. The old bench that used to be in this position, we need to find a new home for that. I'm not sure whether I'll donate that to one of our communal areas or another plot holder, because we haven't really got anywhere else for it to go. The herb bed has actually done really well and looked really nice. This is a cola herb that I got from Urban Herbs. There's no sponsorship there, but I have found them really good. It's actually starting to go to seed now. I think it needs a real good haircut. But it's quite a pretty flower, and there are a lot of herbs within there that do look really nice. The strawberries did do, I say, quite well, not as well as last year in all honesty, but they're looking quite healthy plants now. This has had its second season, this bed, so I'm not sure, it might even be in third season actually. I'm not sure whether I might chop that down and take some runners off it, or whether I'll give it another year. The Brownlee apple tree, which is here, is fruiting really well. It's absolutely full of fruit. In fact, it's starting to fall on the floor, which is a sign that you need to get picking them really. That's going to be one of our jobs for this afternoon. Also, it is the right time to do the summer pruning on fruit trees, and you can see that because at the end of the new growth, you get a really big fat sort of fruiting bud that tends to form. That tells you that it's really the right time to do your summer fruit pruning. So we will do that as well. And as you can see, this is actually a Brownlee apple tree that is not on a dwarfing rootstock. It got grandfathered in on our ground to be allowed to stay, even though trees have to be under 10 foot. We do manage to keep it under 10 foot by some really hefty pruning, but you can see how much growth you then get from those big trees, and it does create a lot of maintenance. But on the positive side, it does fruit really well, so it's not all bad. So the pond has fared pretty well. It's now pretty much set up and just sort of cycles through its own natural cycles. We've had a lot of really nice lilies in this pond, and I'm really quite happy. I'm happy that we did the two sections. So one has got 2 goldfish in and one doesn't have any goldfish in. So we do allow for that sort of natural cycle with frogs to occur well. Behind me is a bit more of a flower area. This little raised bed had various different flowers in. It's well over now, it needs cutting back. It did actually look really pretty in the summer. I've got quite a lot of this verbena plant on here. It's one of my favourites. It does seed really badly though, so you do need to keep a decent eye on that. But it's really pretty, and the bees, they absolutely love this plant. The lavender has done pretty well, actually way better than I thought it was going to do. These plants were looking really straggly at the start of the season, and I did try to cut them back and get them into some sort of shape, and I didn't think they were going to grow that much at all. So overall they have done really well. I'm in 2 minds whether I'm going to take these plants out and put some smaller ones in. It used to look really neat, like a little hedge on here, and I quite like that look. But the bees again love this. So I don't really like taking out plants that do look decent. So I might just prune it back again and go for the bit more wild and open look next year, because it did work really nicely. We have got some blueberry plants here. There's 3 tubs. These are called, I'm not going to remember now. It was a different type of blueberry. That's like a pink one. It might be something called like pink lemonade or something like that. These will be going in the fruit cage. Obviously they were well too small to actually fruit, but they've started to grow like quite good now. I might give them a little bit of prune to just give them a bit of a better base shape, but they're doing it pretty well. They're planted in ericaceous compost in these 30-litre tubs, so they should be able to stay like that for quite some time. Blueberries do like really big pots. Most of our blueberries that are in the fruit cage on the other plot are in like either 70 or 100-litre pots. Obviously these are still quite small, so they don't need to be that big yet, so that should be okay. This was another strawberry bed. Again, this one I think is in the 3rd year, so we probably do need to take them out and replace them. But I was looking, I think it was Charles Dowding, where they were saying that he gives them a complete haircut back, so they're like a little stump, and then removes all the runners, and then the strawberries can be a little bit more perennial. So part of me is tempted to have a go at that. I'm not sure. I'll have to make my mind up. Behind me here, the raspberry frame is just starting. There's a little bit of fruiting on here, not a lot, because these actually went in new plants in February, at the very start of early spring. What has looked really nice on here is these clematis plants. There's one here and then one in the middle. They're pretty much finished flowering now, but they did actually look really nice. And that gave this area something, because the raspberry plants were all like pretty small like early in the season. But hopefully next year we'll get decent raspberries, because we'll be able to chop them right down. These are autumn fruiting raspberries, so they do get chopped right down to the ground in around February, and then hopefully next year they'll go off to a really strong start. So the dahlias have done really well. This sort of established dahlia border always does really well. I mean, if you want to keep it looking all perfect, you have to keep on top of it better than we do, and you really do need to come in and deadhead like a lot of your dahlias to keep them flowering, and we just have not had time to do that. But they still look pretty good, and the support stand has worked quite well. If we look at just behind here, we put some new dahlias in, and you'll see the difference when they haven't got good support in. They look beautiful, but they're sort of falling over everywhere already. So let's have a look. And these are the dahlias that have been less supported. So you can see the plants have basically flopped everywhere. I did try to get them back upright and put supports in, but the problem is once the plants start growing like on an angle, the stems sort of harden in that way, and you will just snap a load when you try and lift them. I'm hoping that they will now be like bulking the tubers up, and then next year we can put a frame in around it a bit more like this, and this area will look really good. But we've got some really nice new dahlias here, including this sort of dinner plate one, and the small sort of nice little pom-pom ones. I really like these. And then there's this one here. So I think once these are all back upright, it will actually look really, really good. I just wanted to show you some of these mushrooms that come up on our paths. This is pretty normal because the spores are within the wood chip that we put on. These will not be edible varieties, I'm pretty sure. So don't ever eat any mushrooms that you grow on your own plot unless you really know what you're doing. But this is not really a problem. I will leave them there, just let them die back a little bit, and then we will remulch in the summer. Like we said, we have had very little time on our plot, and it's certainly not as tidy as it normally is. And that's probably why this mushrooms have been able to come through, because this hasn't been sort of trod on really as much on this path. And we've had the dry weather, but then we've had loads of rain over the last couple of weeks, and it's given that flush of mushrooms a chance to get going. So the rhubarb is coming to the end of the season. This rhubarb has been in since we got this plot, which is probably about 23, 24, maybe even 25 years ago now. It's a massive thing of rhubarb. We never managed to pick an even dent into this, even with giving stuff away. And we do harvest absolutely loads of this for our open day, which goes towards raising funds for our association. So it's pretty much dying down now. I just leave this to it. I don't see there's any point in trying to get it out. I have tried to make it a little bit smaller and remove some of the crowns, but it's so established. The roots must be solid orange roots underneath there, and I don't think it's really much point as wasting time trying to get it out. It'd be very difficult. So we don't need this much rhubarb, but you know, it looks nice and it is easy to give away as well. So here's, I'll show you a nice weedy bed. There's actually a lot of beans coming up on here. So this is where we had our black beans that we grow for drying, the little dwarf variety called Hoppy Black that we got from the Heritage Seed Library. I didn't quite manage to pick them at the right time before the rains came in, so quite a lot of them got dropped on this bed, and they've also been sort of sprayed or maybe moved by the wind or the birds onto this edge of the community plot, and you can see because of the warm weather they're all germinating again. However, they are a pretty easy weed to pull out. I've actually decided to not pull the track because there were too many beans to pick up basically, so I thought I'm going to let them germinate in this bed if we get a little bit of warm weather, and then I'll just pull the plants out. It's actually easier to do than trying to pick the beans up, so that's why I have left this bed. That was a bit of a mistake. I have actually got quite a lot of the plants, so we just lost a certain proportion of the harvest, and that's just because we haven't been able to be on top of it like we normally are. So in the next bed, it's been tidied up a little bit. There are some calendula plants on the end. Again, these will have dropped seeds everywhere. There were some onions and shallots in this bed which have been harvested. One big success story we've had, and we do, I would say, get this most years, is potatoes. They have been crazy. We picked some potatoes last week and they were absolutely massive. So I think we need to get eating these potatoes. We have grown less than every year we grow less and less potatoes, because we just don't get through them. I think we eat more pasta and rice and things really, and we just don't get through, you know, the large amounts of the harvest. So there is this bed and the other beds, there's double this amount. That's still quite a lot. And when I harvested one bucket, that lasted us for like about 5 meals for 3 of us at home from one bucket. I just made loads of mashed potato and put it in the fridge and then just used it throughout that week. So there is quite a lot of potatoes here, but again, they have done really well, which really surprised me because I only watered them once. So with how dry it's been, I wasn't expecting to have such good potatoes. Maybe it's because I use my homemade compost and it's so rich and nutritious. But it was a surprise to me because I was expecting the harvest to be quite poor, and it's actually really, really good. So there's a couple of interesting things here. The first thing is this kiwi vine. So I put this in last year and it just basically didn't grow. Even though it was watered and the weather was quite good, it just sort of stuck static. But this year it's actually taken off, and as you can see, it's starting to grow up this structure. So I do believe they form really massive vines. So I'm hoping to grow up and over this archway. That's the plan. It is a variety called Kiwi Jenny, which is like a small one that's for grown in cold climates. I don't know if we'll actually manage to get any kiwis, but I thought it's quite an interesting plant, and it will make a nice archway on this structure that was put up. So in front of me, you know, every allotment here has massive marrows at this time of year. That's just a reality. So a lot of these will end up on the compost, so the end of the courgettes. What we do have within here looks like lots of grass. This isn't couch grass. It's because on this bed we mulched it over with guinea pig bedding that obviously had lots of straw in, and that is the seed from the straw that has like germinated. So it should be pretty easy to pull out. I'm not going to let it seed itself. You can see it's starting to go. So this bed needs completely emptying, but that's what it is. It's not couch grass. It is, and I'd say that's been a really good mulch for us. So there's lots of talk about no dig in wet climates, like in the UK, particularly we are in the north of the UK, we're in Manchester, about not using fully composted mulches. Personally, I have found that using guinea pig bedding, which has obviously got the guinea pig poo and wee in it, but it's a lot of wood chips, and like a shredded wood chips and bits of straw and stuff from the bedding, is really effective for things like squashes, and obviously I get that free from a friend, so that's great, and it's worked actually really well for us. So sometimes it's worth having a go at things. We have started collecting up some resources to redo this section of plot 4. It's not because it's not a good growing area, but it's become quite difficult for us in our area to be able to get free wood chips. And we've got 2 full plots, so if all the beds need wood chip paths, you're talking about needing tons and tons of wood chips. And when you have wood chips and they start to rot down considerably, then they just make brilliant compost for your weeds to grow in. So they need to be topped up really regularly. So what we decided to do, we had a really good success on plot 5B with putting slabs down around the main raised beds. That's a more sort of organised structure. So we're planning to get, we have to redo some of these beds. I'll be honest, some of them have absolutely had it. If you have a look down here, this one here hasn't even got any side anymore. They have been in probably at least 10 or 12 years, I think, these. So they've done us well, but we got a load of free wood, which was great, which is like decking boards, and we are going to redo the beds in this section and get the paths in so it looks a bit more like 5B. It will also mean that we stop the sort of bowing that tends to happen on these beds as well, which can mean that you end up with some dinky tiny little path you can't get through. And hopefully it will also help with managing the weeds a little bit more easily on the paths. So in this bed there was a load of calabrese, broccoli. They did really well actually. There's nothing in there now, there's just the ends of the plants. Again, we've hardly started doing any clearing yet, so that needs clearing out. The Brussels sort of did okay, but because I didn't have enough cover to get it covered high enough, you can see the effect of the stunting on the growth that you get. So some of these look really small, these look quite big. But what I'm hoping is once we get the covers off some other stuff that we're taking out, I can probably give this a bit of a free run. And they are actually getting some Brussels that are forming on them. So it's worth us leaving them in. I mean, I was going to take them out because I was thinking we're doing these paths anyway. So once I uncover them, I'll make the decision what to do, whether we just think stuff it, make it easy for us with doing the paths. But I do think some of these will provide some Brussels, and in all honesty, as long as I get some for Christmas Day, I'll probably be happy anyway. There's a few different things going on in this section. I have got the parsnips, and I remember in our last video, I actually said, I'm letting these go to seed just for the bees, but I'm not going to let them drop seed because it was such a disaster last year when they dropped the seed. And let's say they've all dropped the seed. I didn't even manage to get any seed because we went away for a week and it was so windy, all the seeds just came off. So I do think we are going to have parsnips galore coming up in this area, but hopefully with the rearrangement of the structure, we might minimise some of that. There are some more potatoes underneath here, but the squash that was planted in that bed has just taken over and grew over the frame. It's got some really big, like great squashes on, so I just let it do that. But underneath, one thing that I forgot to say when we were talking about potatoes before is we did not get blight this year, and that is very, very unusual for Manchester. But with that hot spell that we had that went right through into August, we haven't got potato blight, and that might be one of the reasons why the potato crop did sort of start to swell up really. But that's very interesting. It made me think that I might actually try tomatoes again outside next year. Some other plot holders on our ground have got like amazing tomatoes outside, and I stopped doing that because of blight, but you know what, I might give it a go next year, so watch this space. So this area was more pretty cutting flowers. I have to say it's looked really nice for most of the summer. A lot of these will need to come out, but this is some sort of like deadly nightshade plant. I think so. I obviously don't want to be eating them. I thought it was a Cape gooseberry because they look very similar, and now they're starting to form the berries. They're definitely not, so that's why I left them in. But you can see in this one here how big this one is. Definitely a Cape gooseberry. I know I've seen them. Yeah, so we'll have a good. That is a massive plant. That is 100% a Cape gooseberry. This one is some sort of deadly nightshade plant, so I just need to get that out. These asters have been really beautiful. I mean, they really are for cutting and putting in a vase, but they're just so pretty. I just didn't want to take them off my plot because it was making my plot look really nice. But overall, this is a cutting area. Has been really pretty. There's a lot more of the verbena as well that's in here, but it's sort of a mixture of the asters, some more calendula, a few different plants actually. I can't remember. I've had some random ones that I put in, but it has looked really nice for most of the year, to be honest. I'm glad I was right that it was a Cape gooseberry because I was leaving it specifically for that. I don't know if we get any fruit, but we might do over the next few weeks. Let's see. the cabbages this year have been a win, but also a total fail. Now these red cabbages are absolutely perfect now. They need harvesting. But the smaller green summer cabbages, I mean, there probably is some bits that are salvageable in there, but I didn't pick them at the right time. They've been slugged to death. Yeah, so you win some and you lose some. And like I said, we haven't managed to utilise a lot of our crops as well as we normally do, but we've just had to prioritise other things that we are involved in. I am glad that the red cabbages are a win though, because I do like to pickle them, and I actually like them better than the green cabbages. So that's perked me up a little bit, because I was a little bit annoyed about losing the green cabbages. So that's positive news in itself. The last thing we've got in here is leeks. It's pretty weedy in there, and honestly, but I'm hoping it's forecast sun for the rest of this day and tomorrow. So I'm going to spend tomorrow tidying up this plot and getting this stuff into the compost that's gone over. The leeks actually look pretty decent in there without the weeds. So once I've weeded that off, it might need a slightly higher cover on it, but other than that, I think we will get some leeks for winter. So that's the whole of plot 4. Now let's go and look at plot 5B. So you can see here we're on a 5B what I was talking about with these pathways. You know, whether paving and not having more natural resources is the right thing environmentally, but I think sometimes when you've got an allotment, you've also got to be practical, and you can see the difference on here. It makes it much easier. I have to say that this plot 5B, to say the amount of time we've not spent on it really, has stayed as neat as a button. So this is what we're going to go for really for the front of 4, and then hopefully it should be easier for next year. But looking on here, we are inundated with beetroot. We're inundated with beetroot. Again, that's really good. I like to pickle that. So we have been having bits of beetroot, but I'm going to do a mass harvest and then want to pickle most of that. These are all our beans for drying. Again, looking really good. I might try and pick a load of these tomorrow in the heat so they can just go into the polytunnel to dry off, because you don't want to be leaving these to get wet. That's what makes the pods open and it drops all the seeds, what happened with the small hoppy black beans. So we have got butter beans. These ones they're like French chestnut beans, and this one is the Belotti, I think, which they're sort of similar beans actually. So we've cut down the number of beans that we were growing because we have too many at home. We're also getting some work done on the house in February. So I need to be reducing the amount of stuff that we've got in the kitchen at the moment rather than building up too much extra. And that's not that easy when you have an allotment. But one thing that's looking really nice, I have to say, is I did, when I cleared some beds out here, sow some green manure. That has been really, really successful. This is Phalacia, and it's just flowering now. It is absolutely full of pollinators. You know, it does stop the weeds. I'd say if you use green manure, don't let it seed, because if you do that, it'll be a worse weed than the actual weeds because they get everywhere. But, you know, as a cover, it's done really well. And because we're no dig on here, I think what I'll do is I'll chop it off and then just let it sort of rot down on the surface, and then we'll re-mulch over that in spring. So I'm actually really pleased with that, and it does look really beautiful. So that is a real positive. The other green manure we've got over here, so let's have a look at that. This is the other green manure, buckwheat. Doesn't seem to have as many pollinators on, but it was easy to grow. So I definitely do this again. That was the 2 that I tried for this year. They both need to be sown during the summer. They're not like really an overwintering type of green manure. But I'd definitely do it again. I think, you know, especially if you're going to compost the material before it seeds, it's really, really effective. But I'll chop and drop, I think, here. One thing that we have on this bed, which is actually really cool and maybe saved me loads of money, there are loads and loads of self-seeded violas on this bed. So what I would do when I chop and drop here, I'm going to dig them out and I'm going to put them into the flower area. And I would have usually bought a lot of these from the shop, and there are a lot in there. So that is always great to find a freebie. Now, we did put more flowers in on the plot this year, mainly because we knew we were going to be so busy as well. And I've grown these ones here, and you know what, my mind's just gone blank, I forgot what they're called. But they've been really pretty and really good. So I have quite enjoyed having these. Again, I haven't really been picking that many to put in vases. I just like the look of them. So we have given some away to friends and things as well. So this was mainly, whatever these are, feel free to tell me in the comments because I've gone completely blank about it. There's also a load of cosmos in this end, which again is just going over. There's lots of seed ready at the moment with this cosmos, so I have been collecting some seed and I will re-sow some of this as well. I don't know if I'll get any seed off these. I don't really know what I'm doing so in regards to these, so I don't know whether we will get seed or whether I have to sow them again. I bought most of these as plug plants, these ones, but obviously these I did sow from seed. Again, it's looked really nice. A lot of the flowers I found need a lot of staking, and if you get that right it looks brilliant, but if you don't get it right you're on a loser, you can't even get through your paths. But I would say it's more a success than a failure anyway. Now Anthony just pointed out, and he is completely right, there's not many pollinators on the buckwheat because they obviously have got a better buffet just here. These are chrysanthemums. Again, these were for cutting. This is, I think they're like a perennial one. They've been probably in maybe 2 years, 3 years. And again, look really nice. I mean, one of these days I'm going to get myself together and actually start taking these cutting flowers home. But they do make the plot look really beautiful. And there's a lot of pollinators on this. So that is great, really. Really interesting getting a bit more into growing flowers than I used to be. So here I have got coriander seed galore. It's already dropping, but I'm not really bothered about that. I think once you have it there, it's quite difficult to get rid of it anyway. And a lot of this was self-seeded from the year before. But I will collect a lot of this. I did have to try and tie them up just so where the seeds drop stays more like on this bed rather than the entire plot. But you can use some of these seeds for cooking. I'm tempted actually to put some sort of cloche over this bed and just see if it will grow better throughout the winter. The other option is to sow a little bit in the polytunnel, or just to let it come up next year, which has been really successful for me. So I'm going to leave it here, just let it drop and sort of seed. The parsley that's curly parsley, that's looking quite good as well, so that's still ready to be picked. And we have got here actually, this is one of those yellow chrysanthemums that has seeded and set up a little plant here. I'll probably dig that up and give that to somebody else on the allotment because as you can see I don't really need any more. So surprisingly they are good spreaders from seed as well, which I didn't realise. I thought it'd just be from the roots, but interesting anyway. They definitely have dropped some seeds and they have set pretty well by itself. Another success we've actually had this year was growing basil outside because of the heat. So normally I only grow this in a greenhouse, but it was so hot I thought stuff it, I'm just going to put it outside. And it's all gone to flower now. This one is the Thai basil and it smells amazing actually. And the pollinators love this as well. You can eat the flowers. I mean, they're a bit strong in flavour for me, but I'm going to cut a lot of this, I think, and just make some sort of like Thai sort of stir fry thing. I know quite a lot of their traditional, there's like a chicken dish that uses a lot of the Thai basil in, and I think I might make that and sort of freeze some of that. But I have become a bit of a sucker, I have to say now, for leaving things in because I like to leave them for the pollinators. But at the same time, a vegetable plot needs to be a vegetable plot and not just go too far. So we're not growing any veg, but it does look beautiful there, doesn't it? I like it anyway. I have to say this has been the year for fruit. I mean, whether it's the heat, whether it's that we had the sun at the right time for the pollinators, whatever the reason is, but all our fruit trees have literally went crazy. I mean, look at the size of some of these pears. I mean, some of them have started to drop a little bit. We need to get these off because you do need to pick pears before they're actually ripe. They ripen off the tree, but look at them, they're absolute whoppers and they're really nice. This is a conference. You can see that there's so many pears on it that the branches are needing to be supported quite a bit. So I probably do need to prune this a little bit. But again, one of our most successful crops. I'm going to take a load of these into work as well and give some away because we've already got a freezer full of pears. So I don't think we need any more pears in the freezer. And there's only so many fresh pears or fresh apples you can eat. I find that they tend to ripe up within a couple of weeks, so they don't store in the same way as apples, but absolute monsters, like really brilliant fruit crops we've been getting this year. I am in the midst now of our multi-grafted fruit apple tree. There's actually 5 different types of apples, either 4 or 5 different types of apples on here. This has done really well this year. I'm not sure how long ago. Do you think it was maybe 4 years ago we grafted it? Probably about right. And I have to say that it's been really successful. And we've had at least 3 different varieties of apples, eating apples, that have been really delicious off this tree. One of the biggest success was the bright red ones, which we've eaten them all, or they've dropped now. But again, this is going to need a hefty prune because it was grafted onto an existing, quite established root of a tree. So it has a lot of energy to grow each year, and it's hard to keep it small. So we do need to prune, but it has been a success, and it has meant that we've got more than one apple on one tree, which is what I was trying to achieve. So we don't have to have multiple trees to try and get a variety of different apples. So this has definitely been really effective for us. I am in amongst, again, a little bit of a jungle in here. So this is our greenhouse on the back of 5B. So we tried to grow a few different things this year. I don't know if this one's been a success yet, but hopefully you can see this little bottle gourd. Some of them have actually gone all wrinkly, and that's because even though they're in self-watering pots, I have to say I didn't really keep up with filling them perfectly. But there are a number of different fruits. Actually, this one up here looks really good. So hopefully we will get some. What I'm hoping to do is to dry them and make them into some sort of ornaments. I was hoping to do a sort of lampshade, but it would be a very small lampshade with the size of some of them. But, you know, let's see if they dry off. It's been a good experiment. I have enjoyed doing it. Has been something a little bit different. We have got loads of tomatoes that need picking. We had loads at home as well. The plants have all finished off there. I have to say these ones went in a little bit later and have fared better. It's been quite hard to keep on top of sort of plants in a greenhouse just not frying in the heat. So we normally just put chilies in this greenhouse, but again, we've got so many chilies. I was trying to cut down the number of chilies that we grow. So I just put the tomatoes in because I wanted to use the space. But again, these need harvesting. They look pretty good. I put a load of these, I think, in the freezer. The chilies as well. You know, I do love growing chilies, and they do look really good. We've got some different ones here. We've got some of the long ones, and you know what? That one's massive. I don't know what my record was. Is it about 45 centimetres or something, or 44, I think. So maybe I should have a look and measure that one. But yeah, the long chilies have done really good. We've also got some golden cayenne ones, and lots of Apache behind me as well. They're our sort of staple one that we grow. So this is more than enough chilies. I'm probably going to try and make some sort of fermented yellow sauce, I think, with the cayenne ones. And in some ways, I don't know why I really grow these long ones, because they're not the best for cooking, but I just like it as a bit of a challenge. And that one is massive, which is great. We're over to plot 2B, which is our last plot, and this is the polytunnel that's at the back of plot 2B. So in here, these are the little black beans that I was talking about. Just left them to dry there. So we're not going to get an amazing crop. I've also got some onions drying on the floor behind here. Have been really impressed, I have to say. I'm pleased with this. Is my grapevine. I'm like happy with that. I'm trying to train it so it comes up here, goes along here, but then goes also up and down. So eventually we'll have the grapes over the top of the polytunnel. That's my vision anyway. Have to say it looks quite good. I have pruned it down and got it tied in. So I guess the first few years is just trying to get the trunk structure growing rather than worrying about getting to a point that it will fruit well. I think I've achieved that. I have to say I don't really know much about growing grapes, so I do hope I'm doing the right thing, but it looks pretty good. I am happy with that. The apricot tree did really well. We did have ripe fruits on this that we managed to eat for the first time. We had ripe fruits last year, but they all dropped when we went on holiday and I didn't get any. Whereas this year, I think I had about 30 and they were absolutely delicious. So when we talked about mushrooms actually earlier on, you can see on the floor here, there's some mushrooms that have come up. Now they do look like those sort of flat mushrooms that you can eat but I would not recommend that. But it's interesting. It's because I've had a flush of a bit of wet weather that they've come through. So I have done some of the pruning on the apricots because you need to do that during the summer. And the other thing that we've got in here, which I'm going to count as a success, even though it doesn't look very successful, is this aubergine. Because I've tried to grow aubergines, honestly, for like years, and I've never managed to get any fruits. I always get really bad spider mite, and I never managed to get them to fruit at all. And I think it's because they weren't either in big enough pots, or the watering wasn't steady enough. So I have put these in these self-watering, these are the little chili self-watering pots. It's definitely got spider mite now, for certain. It's quite bad spider mite. But there's quite a lot of these small aubergines on them, and we did get one here as well, like a normal like purple aubergine. So now I feel like I've got a better idea what I'm doing, and see how big they are, and they're growing to the ceiling. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is to grow them in here again in the self-watering pots, but put them on the floor and make a bit more of an effort to tend them, because I now feel like it's achievable. Whereas before, I was at that point where I think I'm just going to give up growing aubergines, it's not worth the effort. But I think now I've got a vision that I may be able to achieve aubergines. So that's one thing that will definitely be on my plan for next year. I'll show you here another dead plant, or another fail. Like we said, we haven't tidied this plot up before doing this tour. So you can see what it actually looks like. This was some rootstocks for plums, which they're looking a little bit not great. I've got a few of these, and again, it's just been the heat and not keeping up with watering them. What I will do is cut them all down and see if they just re-sprout really for next year, which some of them probably will. And then the idea is that we were going to graft some trees from our Victoria plum that we could sell really for our community plots. So it's a bit of a fail after I've been growing these for 3 years to let them die, but I don't think they're all dead. So we've got a little pear tree on here. This year we had one pear on it, which was eaten by the squirrels, but it's a nice looking tree. So this apple tree, which is, I can't remember the actual variety, but it's some sort of Cox Cross type tree. Didn't have as many apples as last year. It was really heavily loaded last year, but they're really nice eating apples. I've eaten quite a lot of them off here, and this is awaiting its summer prune really now. Let's have a look at the fig tree, because those that do regularly of you probably remember that we took out a massive fig tree, and we've left a small one in a pot. So let's see what that one's doing. So the baby fig tree, which was a cutting off the original fig tree that actually came out of our garden, been planted on the allotment for about 7 or 8 years, and has just gone crazily big, and we could not keep it under the 10-foot rule for our ground, so we ended up getting it out. It's looking all right. It's got loads and lots of baby figlets on it. So I do think we need to shape this better, because it seems to have lots of branches coming out the bottom, which we don't really want. But I think we might get some fruit from this, and it's in a pot. We're not going to end up in the same position before, because we had to get a tree surgeon in to ground the stump out. It was just too difficult to get out. I have to say it cost us quite a bit of money, so I do not want to be doing that again. But this tree is looking good, so I'm happy with this. We don't need loads and loads of figs. I mean, Auntie doesn't like them anyway. I just like to eat them fresh, so a small tree is a good thing. And as we've come over here, there's definitely at least one of these plum root stocks that's alive. So I will have at least some. So inside the fruit cage itself, if Anthony just points it, I'll walk around here. We said earlier on that we needed to fix this fruit cage. We haven't managed to do it. It needs some work over the winter. I think what we'll do is just completely take the top off and leave the top open over the winter. This stuff just needs pegging back in at the top, and then it will look perfect. The plum, the Victoria plum, was crazy, absolutely crazy. It was overloaded to the extreme. Most of it is in our freezer at the moment, and we did eat quite a lot fresh as well. So I have to say that was the most successful thing in here. The blueberries did not do as good as they have done in previous years, probably because I just haven't managed to keep them well watered. But the plants are alive, and I'm sure they will come back well next year. It's quite hard to water on this plot. It's really far from the nearest water source, and we've got a lot of things in pots, so I often don't manage to water it that well, and that does really affect your blueberry crops because they like it really moist ground. But previous years the rain sort of done that for me, so I need to think how I'm going to manage that if I'm going to grow so many blueberries. But I don't want to get rid of the plants because it's taken us about 7 or 8 years to get to the point of really decent fruiting blueberries, and we normally get massive crops, so I probably should invest more time into watering them because it's really worth it. If we go inside the cage, I just want to show you guys something that we have started to put in, which I think next year will look really good to try and help us manage and not have any weeding inside the fruit cage. So I decided to try and put in a chamomile lawn underneath where we are growing this blackberry. I have to say it's grown really well because it started with really small plants. I've also put some creeping thyme in there and pulmonaria, which is a really nice lower growing plant for bees with really nice blue purple flowers. So we do need to sort out all this new growth, get it tied in here. I think I need to raise this up, so I think I need to put another layer on the structure so we can tie this in, and maybe at this sort of height take out some of this old wood which needs cutting out and tie in the new growth for next year. And then what I'll probably do in spring is to split these plants and to spread them out over this whole area, because I have to say where it's grown it's done a really good job, and it's a nice way of getting a green mulch really in, which hopefully will flower. That's what I'm hoping, again for the pollinators. But I'm going to try and make some tea from it. That was my idea, quite like chamomile tea. So that was a good way, because I really want this fruit cage set up so we don't really have to weed it very much, which we had achieved through using wood chips and other mulches, but again we're just struggling to get stuff in that volume. So this is a different way of doing it. So again, this has not really been touched very much. I mean, we are here at the plot all the time. I just tend to be pulled into other things. So I would try and spread this out, certainly within this long bed here for next year. So now sort of maybe mid to the end of spring, we did start layering up our composting system on here again. We hadn't used that for probably about at least a season, and that's because in all honesty there was a plot holder on the plot next to us who didn't attend. He's now no longer on the plot. We did get a new plot holder in, but who made a great start, but then has decided it's not for them. They're actually moving away. So, which is a great shame, because they did come in and do a decent clear on the back bit. So as they started to clear the back bit, we started to use the compost in area again. So I have started to layer some stuff in there, and I'm probably gonna, when we clear the plots at this time of year, I'm probably gonna layer all back into there, and hopefully get some decent compost really for next sort of spring to summer. That's the best thing for us, because that was a big composting area that we haven't managed to use, and that really slows down our composting, because although we've got a lot of space, it's already taken up by established structures. So we need to get that back into place, but it just wasn't worth us doing it because the bindweed was coming through, and what you don't want to do is to grow lots and lots of bindweed, lots and lots of compost, and then have it full of bindweed. So fingers crossed it's going to be better. I hope we manage to get a tenant on that really sticks it out on that plot, because having plots that join straight to another plot it's really impactful if plot holders don't keep on top of their plots. So fingers crossed for next year, eh? Hopefully this will give you guys a bit of a laugh. We have a really lovely plot holder who has this plot, which is the next to ours, and he has given me permission to come on his plot, and he's gone away on holiday, and he's left me some lovely signs, as you can see. Please pick the runners. I have to say I haven't done too well on picking them because I haven't even managed to pick my own crops, but I will have a look at some of those today. He does like growing beans, but it's very cute. He's a lovely guy and a great plot holder. So when I say that some plot holders don't keep on top of their plots, that's not always the case. You know, a lot of plot holders is a great sense of community on allotments in the UK. It did make me laugh. He did actually send me a text to say I've left you a sign on the plot for which plants to pick, which I thought was really sweet. So he's a great neighbour, great plot holder. So I'm finishing off in the place that I started on this freebie sofa. I will have to store these away certainly for the winter, but I've got an empty polytunnel, so it's not really a problem. So I hope you have enjoyed our tour today, and those regular followers, it's given you a bit of a catch up and maybe a bit of an understanding of where we've been disappeared to the last few months. I hope you've all had a great season, and if you haven't had a great season, it's given you some impetus and motivation to think about next year and what you might do differently. So if you have liked our video, please do like, comment or subscribe. It does make a really big difference to our channel. So take care everyone. Bye.